drops to the greatest hits. This is Trash Can Tidbits.
Hello, friends and regular viewers. I'm your host for Trash Can Tidbits, Beaton. I'm ready to bring you some more fun trivia for today, once again in VR chat. Last time, I asked the question, what is Pecker's species? The answer is a muncaw. Pretty self-explanatory. He's half monkey and half macaw. He even squawks like a parrot. He and Dexter pretty much become frenemies, and it was pretty fun to see the two antagonize each other. Now, with that address, let's get started with fact number 1. Did you know that there is a bug preventing the player from getting 100% completion in Gran Turismo 2? The first Gran Turismo released for the PlayStation was, of course, a huge success, and expectations were high for the sequel. The developers at Polyphony Digital were determined to make the game bigger, including the use of a second disc, which contained extra content such as arcade mode in case the player just wants to race. However, in a bid to reach the Christmas shopping season of 1999, development was done rather quickly. So quickly, in fact, that the developers overlooked a glitch that prevented the player from reaching 100% completion. Even if they had collected all the cars in the game and completed all the tracks and trials, etc., the game would be stuck at 98% completion. Whoops. Nevertheless, GT2 was a huge success, but Polyphony learned their lesson and made sure Gran Turismo 3 would not be rushed, and would hit the PlayStation 2 with a bang. Fact 2. Sticking with Gran Turismo for this next fact, did you know that the first game the main developer ever worked on was a racing game, but not Gran Turismo? Kazunori Yamauchi, the creator of the series, had wanted to make a realistic racing and driving simulator from the very start, but the company he worked for, then called Polys, did not believe it would be a hit. Yamauchi instead decided to cut his teeth on a cartoon-based racing game called MotorToon Grand Prix and its best-selling sequel. What made those games work was not just the graphics, but also the way the vehicles handled. Traits that would carry over into the game series he became best known for, Gran Turismo. Yamauchi is now the CEO of the company that makes the games, Polyphony Digital. Fact 3. Did you know that the programmer who created Lara Croft from Tomb Raider left the company he worked for after the release of the first game? Toby Gard was a young designer at Core Design who came up with the idea for Lara Croft and her exaggerated proportions. While the first Tomb Raider game was a huge success, Gard was very dismayed at how the media was portraying Lara as a supermodel rather than as a strong female character as he originally intended. Because of this, he left Core Design in frustration. When the series was bought by Crystal Dynamics and was rebooted with Tomb Raider Legend a decade later, Gard decided to come back as a consultant to the developers, redesigned the character to his specifications, wrote the story, and worked extensively on Tomb Raider Anniversary, essentially creating the games and the character as he originally intended. Fact 4. Did you know that the character of Hank the Octopus from Finding Dory can be seen as an accidental tribute to a classic stop-motion film? Hank has 7 tentacles, not 8. The movie gives a reason for the missing limb, but the truth was, the processing power for Pixar to animate 8 tentacles was not perfected enough, even by 2016 standards. For similar reasons, 1955's stop-motion monster movie It Came From Beneath the Sea from legendary animator-turned-director Ray Harryhausen had a giant octopus that only had 6 tentacles. Harryhausen maintained that it would have taken way too long and cost too much to animate 8. It just goes to show that even though animation has evolved in 50 plus years, there are still limitations. I have plenty of trivia regarding CG limitations when the first Toy Story came out, but I'll save that for another video. Fact 5. Did you know that PlayStation once had a spokesman that was eventually phased out after 3 years? In 2009, a commercial advertising for MLB 09, the show, featured a supposed marketing VP of PlayStation named Kevin Butler, addressing various questions gamers might have about the PlayStation brand in an often humorous manner. Thus, the Dear PlayStation commercials became an instant hit, and Butler himself became an advertising icon. I gotta tell you though, I genuinely believe that Kevin Butler was a real person, which is why his long-live gaming speech at E3 2010 was received so well. But in reality, though, Butler was a fictional character created by Sony and portrayed by an actor named Jerry Lambert. In 2012, at the height of Butler's popularity, and without Sony's knowledge, Lambert appeared in a Bridgestone Tires commercial that was advertising for the Nintendo Wii. Sony sued Lambert for trademark infringement, but the lawsuit was settled out of court when he agreed not to be featured in any more video game commercials. Thus ended the short but epic reign of Kevin Butler. May he never be forgotten. Fact 6. Did you know that the Nintendo 64 game Perfect Dark used a real model/actress to play Joanna Dark for Rare's marketing campaign? Similar to how Eidos Interactive used a live-action model to portray Lara Croft at different trade events, Rare hired a model by the name of Michelle Merkin to physically play the game's heroine, Joanna Dark. Merkin was featured in various commercials for the game and even 4 in-store appearances. Here's an actual photo of what she looked like in costume, handing out a copy of the game to a fan. It was a pretty smart campaign to generate interest in the game, if I do say so myself. The commercial for the game featuring Merkin remains one of my all-time favorite game ads, and it's a shame that not many game companies do something like this anymore. Oh well, it was fun while it lasted, and Perfect Dark went on to be a success. Fact 7. Did you know that the first Harold and Kumar movie gave a lot of free publicity for White Castle? By all accounts, the makers of Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle didn't ask permission to use their name, but it didn't matter anyway. Despite the fact that the movie contains heavy amounts of recreational drug use, the chain was rather happy that the movie gave them free publicity that they gave away special Harold and Kumar collectible cups at all of their locations. Since the movie is essentially a 90-minute White Castle commercial, it was the first time an R-rated comedy had ever been used to sell merchandise at that particular fast food chain. Fact 8. Did you know that Mission Impossible 3 used an interesting but slightly dangerous method of promoting and marketing the movie? There's no shortage of movies or video games that have used methods that backfire in their marketing campaigns, but for Mission Impossible 3 to drum up interest in the film, the producers had the brilliant idea of rigging over 4,000 Los Angeles Times newspaper vendor boxes with audio players that would play the Mission Impossible theme song when you opened it. The problem was that some of the players wouldn't stay attached to the inside of the boxes and would fall in plain view on top of the newspapers. Customers in turn would mistake them for bombs, and on several occasions, public locations would be evacuated and actual bomb squads would be called in to detonate the boxes. Nevertheless, the campaign continued until after the movie was released. Fact 9. Did you know that there are a few Animaniacs episodes that have some basis in real life for some of the people who worked on the show? For example, in the Slappy Squirrel cartoon, I Got Your Can, which is one of my personal favorites, a neat freak chipmunk named Candy makes Slappy remove a soda can from her trash can, and Slappy proceeds to use her toony knowledge to get revenge against her. A similar incident happened to Sherry Stoner, the creator and voice of Slappy, when she needed to dispose of a soda can and she threw it in a random person's recycling bin. The owner proceeded to rudely tell Stoner to remove it immediately. The genesis of that Slappy cartoon came from that incident. Another episode that was loosely based on real events was Servy Ladies, where the Warner siblings were accosted by 2 ladies in a shopping mall who constantly asked, "Would you like to take a survey?" The writers of that episode were followed around by 2 survey ladies who asked them random questions. Just goes to show that if something interesting happens to you IRL, write it down. You never know when you're going to need it for comedic purposes. Fact 10. Did you know that Sega had no more than 9 console releases between the span of the late 1980s through the 1990s? By the time the Dreamcast was launched in 1999, Sega had way too many systems and add-ons for their previous consoles. In parts of the world, they were still selling the Master System, which first went on the market in 1985. The Genesis had 2 add-ons to prolong that system's lifespan, the Sega Cd and 32X. There was an educational computer called the Pico. In portable systems, there was the Game Gear and the Nomad. And finally, there was the Sega Saturn, which almost completely tanked the company in the mid-90s due to the overwhelming success of the PlayStation. So, prior to the release of the Dreamcast, Sega had way too many systems over the course of one gaming generation. And as we all know, the Dreamcast had a promising start, but then the PlayStation 2 came out and Sega discontinued console development and became a software developer instead. And here's today's trivia question. Since this list had a lot of gaming facts, I'm going to test you a little bit with a particular enemy from a video game series. The character of the Boo from the Super Mario franchise has become iconic. It has an element of attacking the player when you face directly away from it, but when you turn around and face it, the Boo will blush and cover its face. Super Mario co-creator Takashi Tezuka had based these characteristics on someone he knew personally in his life. My question to you is, who did Takashi Tezuka base the character Boo from Super Mario Bros. On? And there we go! I hope you liked what I brought for you this episode. What subject would you like me to do for a future themed list? It's been a while since I did one of those. Comment below and I'll see what I could do within reason. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and boop the bell to be notified for future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.